As I look through this family photo album, I'm reminded of some of the stories I've told my children, grandchildren over the years. And I'd like to tell those stories to you today. I'm reminded of the story. This is when I was in the Army, and we were on bivouac. We were down in the California area, and we were looking for a place to be able to camp for the evening. Oh, there was quite a group of us in this bivouac, probably 30, 40 soldiers. So we had to set up tents. We had to have a space. Well, as we looked across the meadow there, we saw a space that looked perfect for our camp out. Well, unfortunately, on the trail in which we were walking, there was a huge cobra snake. Huge. And being American soldiers, we weren't afraid, but we didn't dare try to cross the path where this cobra snake was. So we decided we would camp on our side of the snake, which we did. And as evening came upon us and it got darker, I looked over at the snake and I noticed that one side of his mouth was quite swollen. That seemed strange. So during the night, I made sure the snake was fully asleep at the time. And I had some dental experience with our group. I went over and I looked at that snake close. And sure enough, his mouth was swollen. He had a bad tooth. So I decided, I went back to camp, got my case, went back to the snake, and gave him a shot of Novocaine, which put him to sleep. And with that, knowing that he was fully asleep, I took out my tools and I proceeded to pull the bad tooth that the snake had. It took a while. You know, cobra snakes only got two. So taking one of them out was quite a challenge. At any rate, it took me about an hour, hour and a half to finally wiggle the tooth loose enough for me to be able to pull it, which I did. Once that was done, I closed up the snake's mouth and went back to camp. It was quite early in the morning by this time. And as usual, as we soldiers always do, we get up early in the morning and we get ready to move. I noticed that the snake was gone. He had moved from across the path in which he was laying. I thought that was strange. But as we packed up and ready to move on down the trail, I noticed where the snake was laying, there was a note, a piece of paper. I said, I don't remember seeing that last night when I was working on the tooth. But sure enough, there it was. And wouldn't you know that snake was so grateful that I took care of his bad tooth that he left me a note. He says, thank you for taking care of my tooth and have a good day. Well, you know, that reminds me of another story that I used to tell. And it's about my good friend. Again, I was in the service at the time, and I was on vacation, and I had a very good friend that lived in California. But he lived on top of a mountain. I mean, he was way up there. And the only way he could get to his place was to go around the mountain on the trail. Well, I had visited him a number of times, and he had a very good friend, and a good friend of mine. His name was Bruce. Bruce was a donkey. And Bruce was always sitting down by the bottom of the hill, and if you needed a way to get to the top, if you didn't think you could walk the distance, you could sit on Bruce. He had a little saddle on him, cutest little donkey, and you could sit on Bruce, and he would take you to the top, to where his master was, and my very good friend Peter. Well, that one day I said, well, I'm going to take Bruce with me, and I knew Bruce very well and very obedient. I'm such an obedient donkey, you wouldn't believe how obedient he was. So we started up the hill, and around and around and around we went. It was a warm day, and I started to fall asleep. I'm sitting on Bruce, and I'm nodding, and I'm falling asleep. Well, Bruce went a few more turns around the mountain, and he was getting sleepy. Oh my gosh. So he fell asleep. Wouldn't you know it, we're both asleep going up the mountain. He's still walking. He knows the trail very well. However, he missed a turn. We were way up on the mountain at that time. He missed a turn. And we started to fall. I'm sitting on the donkey, and we're coming down this mountain, and the air from the pressure from the air woke me up. And I noticed that we were falling, both of us, both asleep, both falling. And I said, Bruce, whoa! And would you believe he stopped 3 feet from the ground? 3 feet from the ground. I jumped off. Bruce came down. We were both saved. What a great day. We tried it again. This time we stayed awake. We made it all the way to the top to visit my very good friend. Now here's a story that some of you may never have heard. This one saved my life. I was in high school at the time, and I had a very good friend. His name was Joe Smith. And Joe Smith and his family were going to Hawaii for a summer vacation for a couple of weeks. They invited me to go along. I'd never been to Hawaii before. I thought, oh, that's exciting. So I went along with Joe Smith and his family, and we got to Hawaii, and it was great weather, and the sand was beautiful, the water was warm, and it was just having a great time. And one of the things I've always wanted to try, and I used to see it on television, is these people, they get on these sailboats, one-person sailboats. They have a sail, and you stand. Well, I thought, I got to try that. So I got on the boat, and was out in the water a little bit, and wind came up. And the wind blew me way out into the ocean. And I was getting a little nervous because, I was a swimmer, but not that good a swimmer. I was way out there. Well, sure enough, a gust of wind came and knocked me off the boat. Oh my gosh. What am I going to do? There's no way I can swim all the way back. I was by myself. And I'm floundering around in the water trying to dog paddle and try to get anywhere close to shore. And underneath me comes a turtle. A big turtle. And he scooped right underneath me and picked me up. And I'm sitting on top of the turtle on a shell, and he starts heading for shore. And he made his way into shore, and I got in there. He saved my life. This turtle saved my life. He knew I was in trouble, and he saved my life. I named my good friend the turtle Francis. And the reason I call them Francis is because of Saint Francis, who is the patriarch of all animals. And I'll never forget Francis as my very best friend.